Good morning. I just want to say thank you to everyone. My accent gives me away. I'm not from around here. And you have made me feel at home. And especially, you make the Americans feel at home with this massive TV right here. And I feel bad for you because that's the biggest my face has ever been projected. And I'm sorry you have to look at it for the next 20 minutes. But we're going to make things a little pretty here in just a minute. We started to ask the question, what if multiplying disciples was as enticing and enjoyable as crafting a perfect beverage? What if every interaction, every conversation, every discipleship pathway was a chance to mix together the right ingredients to make something truly remarkable? You see, in the Gospel of Luke, 2 times a sentence begins with, "The Son of Man came." One time we're told why he came, and the other time we're told how he did it. So in Luke 19:10, here's what we read. "The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." But how did he do it? In Luke 7, we read, "The Son of Man came eating and drinking." Now, we can say that that was just a form of communion with people and hanging out with them, right? But we take it more literally, and we want to have drinks with people. It's how we feel like we can spread the love of Christ to all of those that we meet. It's interesting because Dale DeGroff, who's a renowned mixologist, how many times in our TED setting have we talked about mixology before? Is this the first time? All right, good. A cocktail is not just a drink, it's an experience. And we see that in the Bible. Jesus ate and drank with people, and it was an experience for them, right? Most people were transformed when they ate and drank with Jesus. So what would this mean in the context of multiplication? Imagine a community where every conversation about faith is just as vulnerable, rich, and transformative as the experiences that people had with meals with Jesus. So just as every skilled mixologist will select the finest ingredients to craft a drink, one, we're going to make a drink for you in front of you, and then we're also going to talk about what are the ingredients that we think create environments for multiplying disciples. And so Vanessa has volunteered. I asked her if I'm going to teach her how to make this drink to show how easy it is to make something absolutely beautiful and delicious. Now, one of the favorites, our bar is called Clean, so Clean Bar. And one of the number one ordered drinks that we get is called the Grape Disappointment. I'm not sure the microphone is on because not enough people laughed at that joke. The Grape Disappointment. If you are a Seventh-day Adventist and you come to our bar or to one of our events, the insider lingo is called the 1844, and we know exactly what you're looking for. So, now when I came here, I put a lot of hope and trust that Belgrade would have very similar ingredients. Not the case, but that's okay. We can be creative. So, the number one key aspect of a good drink is quality ingredients. Would you agree with that?
Yes, of course.
Of course. So what we normally have is grape juice, obviously, the name, but they don't sell grape juice here, or at least in the store I went to. So this is a black currant juice. I also made handmade rosemary simple syrup in the hotel at the Crowne Plaza. Very good. And I could not find apple cider vinegar. So one of the ingredients that we have is a ginger-infused apple cider vinegar. And I had to make apple cider from scratch in my hotel room. So
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it looks like a science experiment in my room, to be honest. And then aquafaba. Does anyone know what aquafaba is? Yeah, chickpea juice. So you drain the can of chickpeas and make whipped cream, but what this is going to do is going to make just a nice foam on top. It's very beautiful. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Are you a little nervous?
A little bit,
Good,
yes.
That's good. Me too. That's awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to build everything in this clear cup.
Okay.
So this is 1 ounce and half an ounce, but in Europe, it's mils. So this is 40 mils, and this is 20 mils.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is you're going to start with the black currant, and you're going to do 2 of the 40 mil.
Okay.
And it's okay that your hands are shaking. Mine are too. Don't worry. If we spill a little, I'll clean it up.
All right, I hope not to drop on my
That's
dress.
great. Now, the second key ingredient, you can do a little bit more because you want to fill that thing all the way to the top.
Okay,
That's right.
so we're gonna add one more.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
So the second thing is balance, right? So you're now going to get the...
This is the one you made?
Yeah, that's rose. Smell that. It
Is it-
smells really good. Rosemary infused simple syrup. So use the other side,
The other
small
side.
one.
Just
That's
want to
right.
make sure not to get
Yeah,
my
that's
dress.
very important. Is balance. So we want to create balance in our drinks. We want acidity. We want sweetness. That's
Okay.
good. Good job.
Yeah?
And now same thing with this, which
Same
is the...
size?
Yep. Ginger infused.
I love ginger. Can it have more than this? Does it have to be
You can
just a
drink it
little
after
bit?
we're done.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
sure.
Thank you very much. I'll take this one with me. Okay.
So fill that up. Yep.
Okay.
And then last, you're going to do about half of the small one. So that's
Half of
like
the small
10 mils
What
of
did you say
aquafaba.
this was?
It's called aquafaba. It's chickpea juice. A little bit more. Do a little
Oh,
bit
it
more.
does
'Cause we-
smell like chickpeas, which makes sense.
But it doesn't taste like chickpeas, thankfully, when
So
we're in a drink.
what does it do? Like it makes it more... is
Foamy.
it- okay.
Yeah, you'll see. So when you make a drink like this, what you're going to do is you do what's called a dry shake. So I'll show you how to shake
Oh
first.
boy. Okay,
Oh,
we'll
you'll
try
be all right.
it.
You'll be all right. And a dry shake, all that does is it really gets that aquafaba nice and foamy. Just 5 seconds. right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, now we add ice. So dry
Yes.
shake, no ice. Wet shake, ice. It makes sense, right? So we're just going to add a little bit of ice here.
Yeah?
Would you like to shake this one?
No.
Are you sure?
I'll
Hold
try.
the top and on bottom.
Yeah,
and just
I
give it a
really
nice
don't want to get a mess. Okay.
Good job.
We
A little
can
bit
do-
more. A
you
little bit
can
more.
do- yeah?
Oh, yeah, you got this.
There we
And so
go.
if you can't hold the bottom of the glass because it's too cold, that's the when it's done.
What?
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
All right. So another thing that I could not find. Wow, you really shook that good.
I did not want it on my dress.
Maybe it helps that I'm not. Doesn't help that I'm sweating. Uh-oh. You broke it.
It could fail.
I was not planning on this happening, everybody. Someone
Well,
have
we
dry
need
hands?
someone to help us.
This
please.
guy has muscles. Careful of your white shirt.
He's wearing a white shirt too. Just, letting you know.
Wow.
I'm
This
stronger
has
than I
never
look.
happened before in my life. Of course, right in front of all the people. Shake it back and forth.
Wow. Okay.
At least it's not me.
Sorry.
This is really going into my time here.
I broke the experiment.
No, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Woo!
Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to strain this out because we don't want anything.
Right. Ooh, it looks really good.
It is very good.
It does. Ooh, and it has
The foam.
foam. Oh, that's
Right,
nice. That's
that's
nice.
Okay. And now,
Yeah?
garnishes are the most important thing. One of
This
the
is
most.
a real live thing, guys.
Yeah.
This is not fake.
And so we just place a rosemary sprig right on top here.
Oh, you're such an
And I'm
artist.
sure
That's so good.
we have
Can you
a
see it?
camera
Can you
that
see
can
it from
see how
there?
delicious that
It looks lovely. Maybe I'll bring
You're gonna
it
drink
lower
that.
to you.
That's
I'll
right.
try not to drop it.
Okay.
After the mess I just
So,
made, I'll try not to drop
The
it.
name
Can
of
you
this
see
drink,
it?
we're going to be calling it the Belgrade 1844.
Can you see it? Belgrade 1844. I'll try not to mess up. Can I taste it?
You can drink it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I do have enough for about 6 more, so if you want one, I
Oh
do
my
take
goodness,
bribes.
it's really good.
Yeah, you can take that over to your chair and have a nice.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Can we give her a hand? Thank you. Okay, so quality ingredients, balance, presentation, simplicity, and strength are things that are needed to make a good mocktail. So now that the hard part is over, let's get into more difficult discussions. So as we had 4 key ingredients in our drink making, I just want to have 4 simple ingredients for multiplication. And just like a ginger-infused apple cider vinegar might be a little surprising in a drink, it's actually the foundation of what makes things delicious. You can taste that, right? You can taste the ginger and the apple cider, that's right. So the first aspect, an ingredient of multiplying disciples, is actually vulnerability. You would think I would come up here and tell you all the steps that you need to have a multiplying community, but if we do not start with the foundation of vulnerability, we will not multiply disciples well, and in my opinion, the way that Jesus would have done it. And I feel like this is really great because Matthew is set up an incredible foundation for me to build upon, because vulnerability, in my opinion, and neuroscience and the Bible tells us that that's the way that we build trust and we can multiply disciples. So for me, the number one killer of our church is this 5-letter word, shame. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about multiplication, church attendance, giving, or baptisms, the lies that the enemy uses and plants in our minds very early on drive us to make decisions and living lives that are not full of the truth of what God has to say about you and about me. In his incredible book called The Soul of Shame, Kurt Thompson shares that shame is a primary means to isolate and disconnect us from each other and consequently from even our own souls. He would go on to share that when shame and isolation enter our lives, we not only isolate from others or isolate from God, but even neuroscience is showing us that the sections in our brain start to isolate themselves. So our brain cannot even function to its full capacity. Thompson continues, shame is not just a consequence of something our minds conjure up. It emerges out of our neurobiological response to relational disconnection. Shame is the emotional weapon that evil uses to corrupt our relationship with God and each other and disintegrate any and all gifts of vocational vision and creativity. So what he's saying here is that shame not only isolates us, but it actually inhibits us from actually being able to go out and use our gifts for good. Here's a good example. So I lived most of my life as a non-Adventist. I was not in the church. I was baptized when I was 30 years old. And there was some part of me that was told early on that I was not creative, I was not artistic, I was not good enough to be able to step out there and show what kind of things enter my mind. Jesus spoke a truth into me, relinquished my shame of that through relationship with other people, which we'll get to in a second. And I would actually say now, 5 years later, creativity is one of my greatest gifts. Creativity is the thing that I can bring to people to show the love of Christ. And that there's things in each one of us where shame is inhibiting you to fully live out the thing that God has created you to live for. And it's these secret things in our heads that just discourage us just a little bit, that don't allow us to fully be living to our potential and ultimately multiplying disciples. So we read that Kurt Thompson says that the antidote to shame is vulnerability and the authentic connection that results from it. So why is vulnerability a vital ingredient in multiplication? Because the foundation of vulnerability within your group is absent. The motivation of why someone is being a multiplier can be pointed in the wrong direction. We can utilize our shame as a great motivator. Some of the most motivated and successful people are the ones that have the most shame because they work day and night tirelessly to prove the thought that's in their head wrong. And a lot of people, a lot of pastors that I know and that we actually work with at Clean, are motivated and fueled by that voice in their head to prove it wrong, that they are actually good enough. So I could do a lot more on that, but we do have a Clean conference coming up at the end of September, and we are live streaming the whole thing. I think it would be really good for your team to watch this. We're going to talk about trauma, addiction, and healing inside of the church, a place where trauma and addiction are not covered most of the time in our churches, and how to build and grow small groups. It looks, the QR code you can scan, or you can also go to cleanconference.info. So we've built a foundation of vulnerability in our groups. That's what we do, right? I tried, like Matthew said, I've tried really hard to put blood, sweat, and tears into a project, into drinks. And I realized halfway through that I was going in the wrong direction, and all I was doing was isolating myself from the people that I was trying to help. But then my wife and I started to have these vulnerability groups, and I cannot tell you how much things started to explode within our small groups. And now the bar is supported by people that are in these vulnerability groups. So at that foundation, we then go to true discipleship. That's the second key ingredient. So the main thing that I focused on, and I kind of was taught to focus on, was preaching and fellowship. I was taught how to preach, and I was taught how to create fun, engaging environments. If you want young adults to come, you have to create fun environments where fellowship is the main ingredient. But the problem is, sometimes fellowship is good, but it doesn't lead to multiplication, it just leads to consumption. So, in his book, Micro Church Networks, Larry Kreider states the primary focus should be outreach and discipleship in our groups, not merely fellowship. Great fellowship will be a healthy byproduct of the church that is consistently reaching out to other people. So you can go to a church and see that they have great fellowship, but they may not be discipling each other. They may not be walking with Christ together and growing in their relationship with Jesus. They're just hanging out. It's another mistake that we made is we focused on fellowship. So I put a lot of effort into the bar and on fellowship, and nothing was actually happening. And until we turned into vulnerability groups, that's when things started to shift. But we have to decide, how are we going to define discipleship? And everyone has that question, right? And so thousands of books are made about it. And I'm not going to define it because I don't think I would have the best definition. But we know a few people. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, when Christ calls a man, he bids him to come and die. So that's not the greatest news we've ever heard. Dallas Willard in The Divine Conspiracy says, discipleship is the process of becoming who Jesus would be if he were you. That's nice. Ellen White, can you go back one? I skipped a little further. That's okay. It is law of both intellectual and the spiritual nature that by beholding we become changed. The mind gradually adapts itself to the subjects upon which it's allowed to dwell. So take you back to the neuroscience of shame when we look at our brain separating ourselves. So Ellen White says, as we behold Jesus, as we look at what Jesus did, how he spent times with others, how he ate and drank, and that's the way that he came to accomplish his mission of seeking and saving the lost. We know that as we behold Jesus and we look, you want to talk about a vulnerable person, Jesus was hung on the cross absolutely naked. Every single photo that we have of Jesus on the cross has him covered in a loin because we are shameful to think of Jesus being actually naked on the cross. But Jesus was naked in ultimate vulnerability. If we behold that, we can start to becoming vulnerable and discipling people in our own groups. Finally, we have John Mark Comer who says very simply, be with Jesus, become like him, and do as he did. So, missional, incarnational lives. That is the third ingredient of multiplying communities. If we're going to live our lives being aware that vulnerability has to be the foundation with Jesus because he's the one that answers all our questions of whether we're good enough or not, and we start to walk alongside people, getting that trust with them, actually having people disciple us and us discipling others, now we start to turn to which way do we live our lives. And in my opinion, it's missional and it's incarnational. And in the church's movement we read, the missional aspect is focused on sending out and reaching people, and incarnation is deeply rooted and present within the community. It's a dual focus that encourages the church to not only go out to people, but also to deeply embed itself in the lives and contexts of those it seeks to reach. So, we are a church that is really, really good at mission. From where I'm from, we send a lot of people over this way, kind of in this direction, for mission. For a week or two, sometimes for a year, to build something or create better the community somehow, but when they leave, we don't know whether or not it's beneficial. And a lot of times, the people in our churches won't even cross the street to reach their neighbors. Our churches are really well known for not being caring to the neighbors, but they're not even interested in having incarnational lives. We're interested in consuming. So, if we are going to be with Jesus, become like him, and do as he did, we have to start living that missional, incarnational life. Like Peter tells us in 1 Peter 2:12, where he says, live such good lives among the pagans, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they will glorify God. So we have to be seen in public, gaining trust. We're also told that they're supposed to see our growth in Christ. So if we're supposed to be seen by the pagans and then also be seen in our growth with Christ, that means we have to have relationship with people outside of the people in our church, right? Leslie Newbegin says, and this is a core theme in our group, is we must live in the kingdom of God in such a way that it provokes questions for which the gospel is the answer. We create environments in our communities, in public, where people walk in and they start to ask us, why are you the way that you are? Why do you do the things that you do? Why are you helping me? Why are you asking for nothing in return? It's a very easy answer when people start asking you the question, and all you have to do is tell them what Jesus did for you. So the final ingredient, much like the final ingredient that we had, oh, you finished that. That was good. Okay, good. That's a really good sign if the drink is empty. Is simplicity and time. Simplicity and time. We need to keep things simple. We don't need more programs. We need more simple discipleship pathways. As the writers of Simple Church state so well, complexity dilutes, simplicity focuses. Like any drink that you make, the thing that you don't want is for it to be diluted. You want fullness of flavor from the first sip to the last. If you have something that's diluted, you just throw it away. But when we focus on actual discipleship, and when the leaders who are all in this room can start to be vulnerable with the people that God has placed them with, and walk alongside them to follow Jesus, to behold who he is, to dwell on who he was as a person, and the community that he built, and to lead by example, that's simplicity that will focus what we're doing. When we embrace vulnerability with our communities, commit to genuine discipleship, and live out a missional, incarnational life, we create space where simplicity and patience guide every step. Like this carefully crafted drink, when our lives are infused with these qualities and empowered by the Holy Spirit, the process of multiplication becomes natural, not only for us to consume, but to give without limit. Thank you.